Hello, I'm Alyssa and welcome to Meet SRU Faculty. Today my guest has had many accomplishments throughout his music career, from being heard on various records to being a positive mentor for SRU students in the music department. Dr. David Glover is here to talk about his achievements as well as the music department and what they're all about. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So what sparked your initial interest in music?
I was very fortunate when I was younger to have very supportive parents. They listened to music all the time. No musicians in my family, so it was really just a matter of listening. I have an older sister, and she listened to, fortunately, a lot of good records, a lot of good bands and things like that, and I would steal them and go down to the basement and practice playing along to them a lot of times, on drum set in particular. But I started playing in band when I was in 4th grade. Went through the band system all through elementary school and middle school, and even sang in the choir for a little while, things like that. So that's pretty much how I got started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just from, like you said, listening, and it started from an early age, like you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you, I believe we talked about earlier that you started playing the drums when you were, what, 10?
10, I got my first drum set.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd started to play percussion a little before that, learning how to play bells and snare drum and bass drum and cymbals and things like that. And then my parents got me a used drum set when I was 10 and put it in the basement. And I was a latchkey kid, so they didn't get home until 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. And so yeah, I just practiced all the time, as much as I possibly could anyway.
Right.
Downstairs as soon as I got home from school and until they got home. So that's how it all kind of got underway.
Yep, and practice makes perfect, right?
Absolutely, you hope.
Yeah, definitely. So you're the director for the Jazz Lab Band here at Slippery Rock.
Yes.
What is the difference between the regular jazz band and the lab jazz band?
We have 2 separate jazz ensembles in the music department. One is the jazz ensemble and the other is the jazz lab band. Dr. Jason Cush teaches the jazz ensemble, which is what we've considered our top band. They're both auditioned groups. Not everybody can just be in them. And the jazz lab band is more of an experiential ensemble where we're trying to get them reading as much jazz as possible, trying to do as many tunes as we possibly can, and they just do 1 concert a year, or a semester, I should say. The jazz ensemble may do upwards of a dozen concerts in the course of a year, and they're one of the more visible groups on campus, or off campus for that matter. And they've had all kinds of accolades and played at many of the best jazz festivals in the world, things like that. The jazz lab band is more, again, an experiential ensemble for those that may have not been in a jazz ensemble before, that may be becoming music educators and want to get that experience of how I would teach a band, so that when they get out teaching a high school or middle school jazz ensemble, if they're not going to be afraid of it as much. But it's also kind of a proving ground and an experience for those students in lab band to hopefully make it into the top band during their time here. So they're not always staying in the jazz lab band the entire time. Some of them will go for a year or 2 and a spot will open up in the top band and they'll audition for it and they'll win it, and there you go. That's what we're hoping for.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty competitive to get in the top jazz ensemble, so it's nice that we have a second band to give them that experience.
Right, that is nice. So say if a student doesn't make the regular jazz band, can they then try out for the lab band too?
It's all done at the exact same time. We always do our auditions in the first couple days actually of school in the fall. And if there's any openings that have come up through student teachings or internships or things like that in the spring, we'll re-audition to fill some spots, but generally the bands stay the same for the entire school year. And then we start over. So yeah, I think they can get into the ensemble if they're committed to practicing the material, because it's a little different than being in a concert band or an orchestra, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's a different skill set for sure. But
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no, my other question is, can they try out for both? Or does it have to be
Absolutely.
one or the other?
They apply, when they audition, they're auditioning for the jazz ensembles.
Right.
And even the combos at the same time. We have at least 2 jazz combos, which are small groups, and they're basically auditioning for all of those at the same time. And we place them in whatever's appropriate for their skill level and experience.
Oh, okay, nice. So you're involved with many music organizations, one being the Percussive Arts Society. Tell me what you do for this organization.
I'm currently the chapter president for the Percussive Arts Society in Pennsylvania. It's an international organization. There's, I think, 50 some odd chapters throughout the world. Actually, there's more than that. I think there's somewhere around 60, 70 chapters throughout the world. And it's an international organization that is basically our, it's our group that represents us as percussionists, whether you play classical percussion or whether you're a world percussionist or whether you're a drum set player or whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, an educator, a student, it doesn't matter. The group kind of represents everyone. The chapter level, we run a couple events every year in Pennsylvania, so one time in the east and one time in the west, and it's my job to kind of help coordinate all those things.
Okay.
And I've been involved in that since I was an undergrad. About 1993, I think, was the first time I started. And had it not been for that particular organization, I probably would not be here right now, because it's a very important ensemble for our group, I should say, for aspiring teachers and percussionists in general.
Yeah.
It's a lot of amazing artists and educators, again, from all over the world. So it's kind of fun, and the culture of percussionists is a very unique one. You don't find too many other organizations like this and groups that speak so freely and are able to give as much information as percussionists are to each other, and not have any ego connected to it, which is nice. You don't see bass players getting together and having conventions like this, and violinists don't get together and have conventions like this. But the Percussive Arts Society holds one large event every November, and there's about 7,000 percussionists that'll get together and share their experiences and talk about all kinds of issues regarding percussion, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of the percussion nerd in me really rejoices every November, and I try to get my students involved in that as much as possible.
I was just about to ask you that. Are any of your current students are involved now?
Yes, they in order to be a percussionist in the studio at Slippery Rock, you have to be a member of the Percussive Arts Society, and they have student memberships and things like that. And we try to get them all going to the convention every year. It's just sometimes it's difficult because it's farther away than other years. Usually it's in Indianapolis, Indiana, so that's really not too bad. And we usually take a van full of all the percussionists here at SRU and head over. And it's life-changing. Like I said, had it not been for PASIC and had it not been for the Percussive Arts Society, I would definitely not be here. It definitely changed my life and changed my path. It's great. Can't say enough good things about it.
That is great, and being that students have to get involved, that's great for them too, because that can help them just like it helped you.
Absolutely. It opens you up to discovering other paths besides the typical, whether it being music therapy or music education or performance. There's so many different areas and types of careers you can go into as a percussionist, and you would never know it if you hadn't gone to an experience like PASIC.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so when we come back, I'll be talking with Dr. Glover about his performances with the Balcony Big Band.
Hi, I'm Dr. Don Curtis, professor in the Department of Political Science.
Annette Salcevic from the Department of Academic Services.
I'm Dr. Covey of the English Department.
I'm Becky Solomon, the president of the Urban Gaming Club.
Dr. Tamara Schiappa of the Geography, Geology, and the Environment Department.
Hey, I'm Dave Kershaw, Department of Political Science.
You are watching WSRU TV.
You're watching WSRU TV.
And you're watching WSRU TV.
You are watching WSRU TV.
You're watching WSRU TV.
You're watching WSRU, Channel 27.
Welcome back to Meet SRU Faculty. I'm Alyssa Cirencioni, sitting here with music professor Dr. Glover. So you perform now still with the Balcony Big Band.
As much as I possibly can.
Yeah, how did that come about?
The Balcony Big Band is something that came about in the last, I'd say 3 months. And it's a big band comprised of local Pittsburgh musicians. A couple faculty members from Slippery Rock play. And they get together at Jurgles Rhythm Grill in Warrendale, PA, every Monday night, which has been great. We do 2 sets. It's been a lot of fun. It's a band that has some history in Pittsburgh, and that there was a club called the Balcony in Pittsburgh for about a decade in the 80s and 90s. And it had a flood, it had a fire, all these various things, and eventually it closed down, but the band stayed intact for a few years after that and played in a couple different venues, but then went away for about a decade or more. And we're very fortunate to have found the original books, all the music, the sheet music for the band, and started the band back up, which is great. One of the main guys that put this together, a guy named Joe Herndon, is an alum of Slippery Rock University, went as a music major and graduated and is doing great things, but he helped put the band back together, and we play music every Monday night in a big band format. Which has been a lot of fun. We encourage all of our students to come out from the various universities and even high schools. They'll sit in with the band at some point. It's been a lot of fun and a great band. They're really amazing musicians in that group, and it's a pleasure being involved in it.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that is a good experience for students to go and see you play.
Absolutely.
You know, because you're not in that teaching environment. You're actually, you know, in a performance environment, so they get to see what you're capable of.
It's extremely important for musicians to see their teachers performing and doing what they do best. Just as English students seeing an English professor publish a book or an article, those kinds of things, doing their research. This is kind of our biggest contribution to the area of research in music is what we do in performing. And we're fortunate in the music department to have a lot of faculty that perform quite regularly. Some pretty much every day are out there plying the trade, and it's great for the students to see that it can be done, and the music business itself is not going away, hasn't changed too much. If you work really hard at it and you become good enough, you can work and make a living in this industry as a musician.
Right.
Which is great.
Definitely, because I know, you know, a lot of people, when they say, oh, I'm a music major, a lot of them joke, you know, saying, oh, I'm not going to get a job or something. And that's just a rumor, would you say? Because that's with any major, though.
Absolutely. I think so much of it has to do with what you set your mind to. If you're passionate about it and you really set your mind to doing the work that's required of it, it's not a problem at all. It may not be what you think it's going to be. I think a lot of us had delusions, I guess, when we were younger that we were, you know, going to end up playing in Led Zeppelin or whatever, and that doesn't happen. And a lot of people get upset with that reality that it's a lot tougher to make it in the music business as a professional, or make it in a rock band or something like that. That part of the industry has definitely changed dramatically over the years. But there's so many facets to the music business, and it's welcoming to those who who put in the time and are good enough. There will always be work for people that are good enough.
Right.
And that's why it's really important as a music major to be practicing as much as you possibly can
Yeah.
so that when the opportunity arises, you can take full advantage of it.
Yeah, definitely. So practicing as much as they can. You know, their music students are very dedicated with their work, and they have to be.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't think, and everyone realizes how much time the music students actually put into their music.
Absolutely. It's hundreds, if not thousands of hours that go into it on a regular basis. When you see a performance of an ensemble at Slippy Rock, whether it be the percussion ensemble or a jazz band or the orchestra or any of that, you have to understand that it's not just a class. They don't just show up and read the music a couple times a week for an hour and a half, whatever it might be, and then show up 3, 4, 5, 10 weeks later and give a concert.
Right.
There's so many hours in the years leading up to that build up your musicianship to where you can even read the music to begin with. So it's extremely time consuming. I have no qualm with saying that being a music major is probably the single most time intensive degree that you could possibly get, with no exceptions. Because every time they're going to a class during the day, like everybody else does, that's taking time away from their practice. Every time they sleep, it's taking time away from their practice. Every time they go have a burger with some friends or go out and hang out, that's time away from their practice. So it's extremely important that they understand that that is what's going to get them from point A to point B, and that's what's going to get them that career in music, is the ability to sit in a practice room and deal with your own struggles as a musician and get better. And that's really challenging. It's definitely a time-intensive task.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So with the music department, it's fairly small, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think in relation to some other departments, we have about 140 majors in the department.
Okay.
Which isn't terribly large, I guess. But yeah, we have enough to fill all of the different ensembles and all the studios. And that's the important thing for us, is to make sure that our ensembles are filled and our studios are filled, and we take as many as we possibly can. But we ultimately end up turning away quite a few in auditions.
Right.
For various reasons, but yeah,
Yeah.
we'd love to have more, but
Definitely.
the facility and the faculty complement and things like that hold us back from that sometimes, but
Okay.
we do the best with what we have.
Right. Well, the upside with, having such a small department is that you have more one-on-one contact
Absolutely.
with students.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things we have to watch, because we have every single major inside of the music department sees their major professor on their
Right.
instrument 1 hour a week for 15 weeks. And that's pretty cool. That's a lot of time that we get with our students on a one-on-one basis that a lot of other majors don't.
Right.
You may never see your major professor outside of maybe an office hour or two here or there if you had a problem. Versus us, we keep tabs on our students pretty much daily.
Yeah.
A lot of my percussionists I'm seeing literally every day, at least for an hour, if not more,
Right.
With ensembles and private lessons. So it's a wonderful opportunity for them if they take advantage of it, and it's one of the things that makes the music department special and unique. It's also one of the things that makes it probably one of the more expensive departments to operate, because we have that one-on-one contact with our students.
Right.
So it's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing that isn't necessarily a sole aspect of what we do here at Slippy Rock. If you go to most any music school around the country or around the world, you're going to get that one-on-one contact because it's needed.
Yeah.
It's so complicated to play instruments and read and play music expressively. So you need that time with a professional as much as you can anyway.
Definitely, yeah. That I'm sure that helps a lot, like you said.
We
More
hope.
than more than bigger schools, I'm sure.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know? Yeah. So, well, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me,
I
Alyssa.
appreciate you taking the time and chatting with me today.
Yeah,
So,
glad to do it.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in on today's Meet SRU Faculty. Be sure to tune in next week to see if your professor or colleague will be on the show. I'm Alyssa Cirencioni, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.